Welcome back to my little makeshift studio here in my flat in Glasgow. Today I will be sharing with you the first stage of my making process. Hi, my name is Lorna Romanenghi and I am a jewellery designer and maker. My work has been exhibited internationally and has won numerous awards along the way. Here, on my channel, I will take you by the hand, giving you VIP access to behind the scenes of the jewellery world, so you can feel more confident and educated when buying, commissioning, or simply appreciating jewellery. To make sure you don't miss out on any new content, click the subscribe button below. So, do you remember a couple of weeks ago I posted a video on my YouTube channel about my 7-step DaVinci method of design in which I broke down a brief and arrived at a design conclusion? Well, today I will be following on from that video, taking that design and that brief and taking you through the first making stage. So if you haven't watched that video, you may want to check it out before watching this video and just kind of catch up on the work that we did up until now. If, however, you've already watched the previous video and are just slightly hazy about some of the details, or if you haven't watched it but just want to get stuck into the making side of the process and maybe watch the design one later, maybe, then don't worry, I will be doing a brief recap of what we covered in the previous video, just giving a quick mention to what the brief was and looking at the final design so that we're all starting on the same page. So, before I show you the first part of the making process, let's just briefly recap what the brief was and let's have a look at what the design was. So our fictional brief is a client's 50th wedding anniversary. He wants a large neck piece to be made for his wife to honour this occasion, and he wants it to be inspired by the lilac flower, which is also the state flower of their birthplace of New Hampshire. After much research, I decided to take inspiration from the scent of the lilac flower, using the molecular structure of its scent as a base for my design, combining it then with the stylised floral elements that I had designed by observing the structure of the flower itself. These two parts combined to form a branch-like structure which subsequently led me to arrive to this design conclusion. So you might recall from my previous video that my final design stage was rendering it to scale, so drawing it to scale. And this is very important, as I mentioned, for the client to show the person what they're getting basically and to show them how big it's going to be and what it's going to look like. But it's also very important for me to not only understand the scale of it, what it's actually going to look like as well, but to actually understand how it's going to work and how it's going to be held together and all these technicalities. But one very important part as well is the fact that I use this drawing as a base sometimes to get really accurate representations and really accurate measurements from this drawing. So what I often do is not only do I do a nice rendered drawing to show the client and for me to understand it, but I also do a really rough one, which is just very practical and about the measurements. Often it doesn't even incorporate the entire drawing, the entire piece, but it's just got certain sections in it that maybe repeat themselves, which are the sections that I will need to measure my pieces. So for this piece especially, this was really important for me to do because I wanted the molecular structure that I'm using as the skeleton form for my piece to be really precise in its measurements because I wanted it to really represent this molecular structure in detail. So what I did was I did the rough drawing of the sections that I will be reproducing in this piece, and I used them to measure my wax pieces against so that I knew that I was getting an accurate representation of what this molecular structure looked like, and I can proceed more confident about my piece. So my natural inkling to starting a project is to usually turn to metal. Now every job is different, so every job requires different materials for you to start with. So some jobs lend themselves perfectly to just diving into the metal, other jobs that are maybe more intricate in carving or that sort of look, then you will automatically go to wax work and then get it cast. However, in this instance, my brain would normally just go to trying and making it in metal. But unfortunately, because I am working from a makeshift bench here in my flat, I don't have all my tools, I don't have all my equipment, so I can't just delve into the metal. So I am restricted in tools and materials, so I just went to the wax, and I am actually really glad I did so, because it actually took me out of my automatic reaction and allowed me to play and prototype much faster and arrive at a conclusion that I'm really happy with. So before I get stuck into the making side of things, I thought I would share with you what tools I will be using to do this project. So firstly, we have blue wax wires in multiple gauges, which are excellent when working with linear structural designs like this one, and which I will be using to make the skeleton structure of my design. We then have thin pink wax, which is very malleable and perfect for floral elements. I will also then need my trusty wax pen to melt, ball and join my wax. A set of tweezers is always very handy when doing intricate work, a scalpel to cut and shape, and a pair of scissors for when the scalpel just won't do. And finally, my trusty set square that I've had with me ever since I was 11 years old and which always keeps me in line. So the first part of this project that I will be starting with is the actual skeleton of each piece of this neck piece, which, as we discussed before, is the skeleton structure of the molecular structure of the scent of the lilac flower. So for this, I will be using the blue wires that I introduced you to earlier. So let's have a look at how I do it. So I start by forming the base of my skeleton, cutting and joining segments of blue wax together, which I first measure very carefully against my template. As I really want these structures to have a nice three-dimensional feeling, I want certain parts of this molecular structure to rise from its base in order to make it seem more branch-like and more organic. So I start by joining these segments at the base at around a 45-degree angle so that they stand up. As I have so many of these to do, I'm just going to speed you through the process so we can get to the next part a bit quicker. Here we have our finished skeletons. So now that we've got the skeleton structure finished, you might recall that in my designs I wanted to incorporate the bud structure as well as the flowers. So for the bud structure, I will be using a technique called granulation, which you can do both in wax and in metal, which basically means balling the material and attaching it to the rest of the structure. So in wax, it's obviously much quicker and easier than metal, and I just melt the wax and create a little ball in certain areas where I want to represent the bud. So I will be doing it at the intersections of each one of the branches to just create that little bit of depth and actually really incorporate that aspect of the bud. So now that the skeleton structure is finished, I'm going to put that to one side and concentrate on the flowers. So for the flowers, I use the thin pink wax that I introduced you to earlier. Being very soft and easy to cut through, I can just do it with my scalpel, and I can easily bend them and shape them using just my hands. Once again, I have absolutely hundreds of these to make, so I'll just speed things up a bit. Now that a few hours have passed, here's what I'm looking at right now. And now that I've got all those flowers finished, and believe me, I'll probably have to make more as I go on because I always miscalculate these things, but it gives me good exercise anyway. But now that I've got them and I've got all my skeleton structures, I can now join forces and create the actual finished piece. So now it's time for me to carefully join my waxes together. The worry with working with two different kind of waxes is that they have different melting points. So I have to be very careful to use my wax pen in such a way as to give them enough heat to join them, but not too much heat that will then melt the flowers. So I really make sure I take my time with this part of the process, as I really want to do a good job. But for your benefit, I'll speed things up a bit. Here we go, all done. I know, I'm fast, aren't I? So normally for a design like this one, where you've got a big neck piece which uses the same structure multiple times, you would actually just make one element and then you would send it off to get it cast. You'd have a master copy made and then you would create a mold from it, and then multiples could be made, and it just makes it much more fast and efficient. However, for this project I've decided not to do that and actually create every piece individually, because I actually wanted to work on a gradient. So I wanted to go from big to small and adapt the size as it went up to kind of distribute the weight a bit differently and create something that's not just the exact same thing going around. An extra bonus point for actually doing each one of these pieces is that afterwards I can actually put them all together and actually see properly the full piece made and see if it actually works, and make any alterations that I need, add in certain things that I maybe need to, take away others, but it actually gives me a proper view of what the piece is going to look like, which for a big piece like this I always feel is very important, to kind of get it really sure that you know exactly what it's going to look like. So now that I've got everything finished and I've seen that it all works together as a whole, and I've got everything all there ready and we're raring to go and to become metal, then the last thing that I have got on my list is to package it up really carefully, I mean really carefully, and send it off to the casting company. Now, I know this might seem a little bit weird, but I thought I would actually share with you how I get it packaged up to send to the casting company. Sometimes I will have pre-made boxes that I use and it's just easier and simpler to just get it packaged up and just sent off. However, because I am in this makeshift scenario where I don't have all my equipment, but I also don't have all my materials, I don't have my usual boxes, I don't have my usual packaging equipment, so I'm having to make do with what I've got lying around. So this morning I actually raked through the flat and tried to find something that I could use to package these pieces up. But because I wanted it to be really sturdy and safe and also compartmentalized so that each piece wouldn't bump into the next door neighbor one and destroy itself basically, it was quite hard to find something that would do the trick. But then I actually came across a box that I got given at Christmas that was one of those boxes that you get for dried fruit and nuts, and it's got little compartments for each kind of nut and each kind of piece of dried fruit. So I actually thought that could actually work. So what I did was I got it, I cleaned it out nicely, I got padding for the inside of it, and I actually created more compartments for the actual pieces to go into. And this worked perfectly to actually divide the pieces from each other, and it gave me enough compartments to actually make up a feasible box. So now that I've got absolutely everything finished, I've got all my pieces made, they're all tightly wrapped up in my makeshift package, which hopefully keeps them nice and safe. All that's left for me to do is go and post them, and then I just need to wait a couple of weeks for the casting company to do their job, and then they'll come back to me, and then I will be doing the next video all about the second part of the making process, which will all be about putting everything together, polishing it up, and actually creating the finished piece. So all that's left for me to do, as I said, is go to the post office. So I'm off, guys. See you guys later. Bye. Actually, one last thing before I go. If you enjoyed this video, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't forget to click the little bell button so you do get notified when new videos come out. I have a few interesting videos on the way, and also, as I mentioned, the follow-up to this video where I show you the second part of the making process. So don't miss out. Please click the subscribe button, please click the little bell button, and that will keep you up to date to any new videos that I release. Also, if you have any questions whatsoever, please just leave me a comment down below. If, however, you'd rather comment privately or contact me privately about any matters or any possible commissions, then please feel free to contact me on social media at Lorna Design or through my website at lornaromanenghi.com, and I will be so happy to hear from you and answer any questions or see any comments that you might have. So once again, thank you for watching this video, and I'm off to the post office. See you guys later. Bye!